Hello, this is David Jones, current president of Queen City Toastmasters. This video is for guests or new members who are trying to figure out what's going on at the meetings, trying to figure out the flow and the different mechanics and how it's set up and why things are done so you can enjoy the club more. And this video should be a quick and easy video for you to watch and just have a great understanding and to start participating immediately. Might not be short. I tend to talk a lot, so we'll see how it plays out. But the first thing with the club is there's two types of people that are in the club whenever you're there. There's a member or a guest. Guests are allowed to come as often as they want. They don't have to join, but your participation is very limited, pretty much to table topics if you're called on. But members, you get to do the various roles. You get to do the speeches, enter contests, become a corporate officer of the club, and then start moving up the ladder of Toastmasters. You know, we have the club level, then there's district, area, state, international. I mean, there's tons of leadership roles out there for you, and that's why Toastmasters is called Where Leaders Are Made, because it's not just about public speaking, it's about getting leadership roles under your belt and on your resume. But as far as being a member, and just to let you know up front, because I know a lot of people wonders how much it costs, and it costs $150 a year at Queen City. Now, some clubs might be a little less, maybe 125, some might be 200, depends on their area and what it costs to run their club. We have a great space at a low cost, therefore we're able to keep our costs low. But when you spend that 150, you're a member of Toastmasters International and Queen City Toastmasters. Most of the money goes to Toastmasters International. Actually, we get very little, but that's just how it goes. And it's billed every 6 months, so it's $75. And if you join in between the billing cycle, it's prorated, so you might have to pay $12.50 or $25 to join. But the most money you're going to spend at Queen City Toastmasters is $150. There's no upselling. There's no swag for you to buy. We don't have t-shirts or anything to sell you. If you enter contests, there's no cost to you. I mean, you might have to drive somewhere, but that's about it. And there's no cost for mentoring or any. There's no $150. That's all. That's all you're going to spend. So don't worry about money. It's just you pay that fee and that's it. And we have about 50 meetings a year. You know, there's a couple every week we meet, but there's a couple weeks, during the holidays that, if it's Christmas is on a Tuesday, we're not going to have the meeting that day. So you figure 50 meetings divided by 150 is $3 per meeting. $3 for you to come overcome the biggest fear, which is public speaking. And you will overcome the fear of public speaking and become a good communicator if you come every single week and participate. And by participating, that's signing up for roles or giving speeches or just being engaged. I mean, I've been there about a year and a half, and where I was when I started was just pure fear. And now I'm not a good, maybe not even an average speaker, but I'm comfortable doing it. I'll get up and do it. That's the main thing, right? I'll just get up and give a speech. I'm not scared to death. I'm not going to throw up or run out of there crying. I'll do it. And it just comes with time and practice. But you can't just come to a meeting and sit there and watch others. You need to participate. And that's what this video is about, is what it all means. And Toastmaster, we're in a weird period. This is 2021. I'm not sure when you're going to be watching this video, but we're in a process of going from Zoom during the pandemic back into the physical meetings, and we're doing a hybrid. But the concept of Toastmasters is based on in-person meetings where you get up, you stand on the stage in front of an audience, and you're looking at everybody and talking to everybody. And the way the program is designed is to help you overcome that fear and start being engaged and participating. Now, everybody that you hear speak at Toastmasters at a meeting is signed up for that role. They chose to give that speech, except for two people, which I'll mention in a meeting. But everybody that speaks is what you can do. And it's not like the person that is doing it, like the timer, he's not the timer every single week. A timer might be me, and the next week it's you, and the next, it's just whoever signs up for it. And that's how it works. But when we call the meeting to order, that is from the Sergeant of Arms. And the Sergeant of Arms is he calls it to order. He has the little hammer, I forget what it's called, little mallet. It's like click, 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 have your attention, calling it, meeting to order at 6:30 on Tuesday nights. And then he gives a little speech for 1 to 2 minutes. He talks about whatever he wants. Toastmasters, there's structure to how things are supposed to be done, and how speeches are to be done and what you're supposed to say for your different roles. But there's also a lot of your ability to personalize it for yourself, because the main thing we want you to do is to be comfortable. If you have to memorize a script or something, you're not going to be comfortable and you're not going to be able to start doing your public speaking. But if you can just get up there and talk about whatever you want, that's fine. For instance, a sergeant of arms, sometimes he'll talk about an interesting fact from 5 years ago today, or 100 years ago today, or talk about what happened at work. He talks about whatever he wants, because we want him just to start speaking and talking and being comfortable speech after speech. It was Zig Ziglar, motivational speaker, who said the difference between a great speaker and a good speaker is about 1,000 speeches. That's why I'm saying you just got to every week engage, do something, even if it's a very small role, do something just to always be speaking. And then outside of Toastmasters, whatever opportunities you have to speak, whether it's to friends or family or at work, wherever you can speak, even in a small group, just practice it. You're always practicing. It's your laboratory whenever you can get out there and just start doing public speaking. And as far as the subjects go, there's really no filter on what you're allowed to talk about. It's just common sense. For instance, in real life or at work, it's best not to talk about politics or religion. Those are personal items. And especially in today's age, if you talk about politics, for instance, half the people are going to like you and half the people are going to hate you. Therefore, don't talk about politics and everybody will like you. But you're allowed to talk, if you want to talk politics, that's fine, but that's on you. The way you get a response from your audience, because that's part of public speaking, is knowing your audience and talking to them, and just talk about subjects that you're comfortable with and that make you feel comfortable, right? That you're just able to get up and speak about whatever it is. All right, so the sergeant of arms is going to do his thing. And again, that is a role as an officer. And then he's going to turn the meeting over to me or whomever the president is at the time. And the president will greet all the guests and maybe introduce the board members and then give his own little short speech. He's doing the speech for a couple of minutes as well. Board members are voted by the club. And right now I'm president and the sergeant of arms. So those two roles are the only roles during the meeting that you can't do unless you're the officer. You can't sign up to be president unless you're president. And the officer roles, the board of directors, are 1 year. And at Queen City, they're actually only 6 months, but we almost always sign up for the role again and get elected back in. So it's pretty much a year term, but we do them every 6 months. And the reason we do that, and it's good news for you if you're interested in public speaking, is at Queen City, at least. Not all clubs are like this. Queen City is a very unique club, but that's why we're the oldest club in Charlotte, North Carolina. But a lot of members, and you'll find this to be true, as you start public speaking, even within a short period of time, your whole demeanor changes. As you're starting to do public speaking, you're feeling confident. You just become a different person. You have more confidence than you ever had before. And that translates in work. And when you're comfortable at work, getting up and giving a speech or a presentation, you start getting noticed and you get promoted. And then you move out of state and you leave Queen City Toastmasters. And that's why we started going to 6 months, because we had so many members that were doing great and they'd get these promotions and they were gone and they were officers and they couldn't commit to a year because they knew they were going to be leaving. In fact, 2021, we lost 2 members. One was a long-term member. She was like one of the great people in the club, and she's now in Michigan. She got a great job opportunity. We have another member who left and went to Virginia. So it does happen, but it's good news. But again, come every week, sign up for a role, participate. That's how it works. Now, as a president of the club, there's a reason to become president, and I kind of fell into it, but I'm happy that I did it. Presidents can only be president of the club for 1 year maximum. You can't run for that position ever again. Now I can go to a different club and be president there, but at each club you can only be a member or president for a year. All the other board positions like public relations or sergeant of arms or treasurer, you can do those years after years after years, and you can not do them, come back and do them again, but you can't be president and 3 years later be president. You can only be president for 12 months. And the reason you want to be president for 12 months versus 6 months is as you go up in the organization, when you get to certain levels, executive levels, like in district, one of the qualifications, because you can't, just not anybody can do it. You have to, there's a process of getting there. But one of the qualifications for some of the positions, not all of them, is to be president of a club for 1 year. So that's why I'm looking to become president for my second 6-month term, so they have my whole year. So that's what the board of directors is, but that's something you might not be interested in right now. You just want to start public speaking, and let's get into that. So after I, as president, give my little speech, I'm going to turn the meeting over to the Toastmaster of the day. We have a lot of titles. You're a Toastmaster. If you've joined, if you're a member, you are a Toastmaster. But then the person who runs the meeting is the Toastmaster of the day, but we just say the Toastmaster. And the Toastmaster is the ringleader, they're the showman, they run the entire meeting. It's the biggest role that you can sign up for, and it's one that you can sign up for. And you'll see it's always a different person. The Toastmaster is in charge of time, introducing people. It's the biggest role because they're on stage most all the time. They are introducing each person, and then when they come up and speak, they sit down, but they have to be active in the meeting the whole time. In fact, when I started 1.5 years ago, I would see the Toastmaster up on stage and I was like, I will never, ever do that, because it was like so intimidating. It was so much work. And I think I've done it like 10 times now. And it's just funny as this process, because it's a process that is hard to see a light at the end of the tunnel, but now it's like, I don't know what the heck I was scared of 1.5 years ago. It's like so silly, but you'll get there. So the Toastmaster gets up, and then I, as president, will sit down, and the Toastmaster has the theme. And again, it's unfiltered. It's whatever the theme the Toastmaster wants. He can talk about applesauce, and he'll talk about applesauce for, a few minutes, and then he'll start introducing the various roles. And then throughout the meeting, when the Toastmaster is back up on stage, he'll talk about applesauce. Just trying to keep a theme, but it's whatever you want. The meeting's basically yours as a Toastmaster. If there's a problem or issue, people go to the Toastmaster and ask him for a ruling. And if he doesn't have the answer or question, then they'll ask, the president or one of the other officers for advice. But Toastmaster is pretty much in charge of the entire meeting. And what he's going to first do, as I'm following our agenda here, is he's going to introduce the Joke Master. Joke Master is something you should probably sign up for first. It's called Joke Master / Inspirational Speaker. And it's basically a 1-minute speech where you're going to get up and you're going to tell a joke. And it could be something that you found funny. It could be something inspirational that really got you excited during the day, or that a quote, that you heard, like, Zig Ziglar, difference between good speaker and great speakers, 1,000 speeches. I just get it, and that would be something you could do. But here's the whole concept of Toastmasters. It sounds simple to get up and give some jokes, like you want to hear a dirty joke, a white horse fell into the mud. Or do you want to hear, you hear the joke about the vacuum cleaner? It sucks. You can get up and really do anything in that short period of time. But the concept of Toastmasters is, and again, the thinking is you're in a physical meeting and you're sitting there on your butt in your chair, and the Toastmaster's up there and he's going to introduce you. He's going to say, hey, David, he's the joke master. I want to come up and give a speech. So now you have to get up, walk up to the front, face the audience, and give this silly little speech. And that is just part of the process, because it seems silly, but when you do it, I mean, you're scared to death, especially if it's your first time to go stand up in front of an audience and tell a joke or say something inspirational, but it's a very brief time. So I would encourage you to do that first. And a lot of people don't sign up for their role. I'm not sure why. A lot of times we don't even have it. We had a meeting last night, nobody did it. It's very rare that people do it, but it's like that first step just to get you out of your chair. And that's the whole concept of Toastmasters. Get somebody out of their chair and have them speak to the audience. And that's what every role is about, as I'll explain. Then after the joke master comes the grammarian. So these are all things that the Toastmaster is doing. He's introducing the joke master. Then he's going to introduce the grammarian, the timer, and all the speakers and everything. That's the joke master's duty. Now, there is a protocol for when we are introduced. For instance, when the Toastmaster introduces the joke master, I'm not sure how it's going to work with the hybrid, but you get out of your chair, you walk up to the front of the stage, you shake the Toastmaster's hands and say, thank you, and then you face the audience, and the standard greeting is, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests. For instance, when I handed the meeting over as president to the Toastmaster would have said, thank you, Mr. President, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests. That pretty much indicates that you now have command of the stage. You're in charge for the next minute, 5 minutes, whatever time that you're allotted for your position, you own the stage. So by saying, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests, it's yours. The other part of that is 3 items are timed. That is your speeches, your table topics, and the evaluations. And a lot of times the timers don't know when to start the timer. Like, have they start, if you're just standing there quietly, do I start the timer now? But if you say, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests, the timer knows as soon as you say, thank you, boom, the timer has started. That's why we do, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests. It could be, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master, thank you, Mr. General Evaluators, whoever introduces you. And that's the way you command. And then after you're done, then you usually would shake the Toastmaster's hand and go sit down. Maybe we're going to fist bump now because of the pandemic. I don't know. So the grammarian comes up, and again, when you're introduced, you sign up as grammarian, you're going to get your butt. Now, the joke master has to get up on the front of the stage and give their joke. But grammarian, timer, and some of the other roles, you don't have to go up on the stage if you don't want to. You can just stand up, but don't sit down and do it. We want you to stand up because it's part of the process of making you feel comfortable, is for you to stand up and explain your role to the group. Now, you can go to the front of the stage for grammarian. And basically, grammarian is doing, and each club is different. I've been to clubs where there's like 3 different grammarians that are specific to certain items. We have one grammarian. The grammarian is checking for proper usage of words. Like if you say it's more better, they might point out to you that you shouldn't say more better, maybe just better. They also are looking for filler words such as so, stuff like that we should not be using in our speeches. We all do it, but you're going to be more conscious of it over time. Some of the best speakers still say so and In fact, if you watch TV, politicians and various newscasts, you're going to really pick up on it now that you become aware of it. How many times people say so or In fact, a few weeks ago, the director of my department had a Zoom meeting with us, and there's about 30 people on the Zoom call. And literally every other word with either or I'm like, we don't know. That's why we're listening to you. You just have to be aware of the words coming out of your mouth. And that's what the grammarian does. The grammarian is making you aware of the filler words you're saying. And they might say, John, you said the word so a lot or a lot. And it's not a criticism. It's just to make you aware of it. So you hear yourself and you go, oh yeah, and the process is you shouldn't say so. You should just pause and think about the next word. You don't have to just go, oh yeah, just pause, get your head straight and say what you're going to say. You don't have to do all the filler words. The grammarian's also going to do the word of the day. They can pick whatever word they want. They can pick the word bananas, right? And the reason for that is part of the process of Toastmasters. There's a reason for everything. That's what I love. It's like you think, oh, that's kind of dumb. No, it's not really dumb. Whenever in real life you're giving a speech, and let's say you have to give a speech in front of your team and you have it prepared and you're ready to go. Well, last minute, your boss says to you, oh, don't forget to talk about the ABC account. Like, you just messed me up, dude. But you got to talk about the ABC account because he just told you to, right? Well, that's the same reason for the word of the day. So the word, I say so, but at least I'm aware of it and I try to reduce them. The word bananas. In my speech, I'm talking and I'm going to say, and then the guy slipped on a banana. You just want to throw the word in there. It's just one word. It's so simple. But that's why we do it, and that's why Toastmasters does it. Is you don't have to. There's no penalty for not doing it, but it's just something to help you become a better public speaker because that's why you're coming to Toastmasters. And usually the grammarian will talk with the Toastmaster. Again, we have a lot of titles. I'm always trying to remember. We'll talk to the Toastmaster and find out what the Toastmaster's theme of the day is. So the Toastmaster's theme of the day is applesauce. Maybe he'll talk about apples instead of bananas. It's just, we try to keep the theme flowing. So after that, then we're going to introduce the timer. And the timer will usually, in person meetings, we have a lighting system. It's, got the green light, yellow light, red light. You push the button, it lights up. And whoever is speaking and is being timed, they know how much time they have. So if they are speaking for 5 to 7 minutes, the green light's going to come on at green, 6 minutes yellow, and at red 7 minutes. So you know how much time you have to wrap up your speech. Well, he's not going to carry that to the front of stage. So wherever the timer's at, the Toastmaster is going to introduce him, and he's going to say, and he's going to stand up, because we want you to, again, it's part of the process. We want you to stand up and talk and explain the role as the Toastmaster. And then you're going to show, because you want to show people what you're going to do. You can show the lights turn on so there's no misunderstanding with the timer. And again, all these are roles that you sign up for. Every week you can do something every week. And a lot of people sign up for timer as a first time thing because it's not that difficult. There is a structure to it, but you can, again, make it your own. I mean, there are certain words you have to say and explain it, but it's fairly simple. But with timer, you're called on, I believe, 4 times during the meeting, where other roles maybe once or twice. So as timer, you're timing the prepared speeches, the table topics, and the evaluators. In the beginning, you're going to explain your role as timer. And then after the speeches, the Toastmaster is going to ask you for a timer's report. So you're going to say, oh, Bob was 5 minutes and 16 seconds. Mary was 3 minutes and 42 seconds. And then you gave your speech. Then you're going to ask for a timer's report again on the table topics and on the evaluator. So you're going to be speaking actually 4 times during a meeting. But, it's a short, brief, easy meeting, but it's something that's going to get you standing up and talking and feeling comfortable about talking to the group. After the timer, we are then going to go to ballot counters, which during Zoom we didn't have because Zoom has the polls. And what we do is we vote for our favorite speaker, table topics, or evaluator. Again, there's a reason for that. Because we're all winners. There's no winners and losers. We just pick for our favorite speaker, because ballot counter is just one more role that we're able to have somebody stand up, explain the role, and do it. So the ballot counter, what in the regular meetings, we're giving a little piece of paper and it's perforated, and you fill out after each speech who your favorite speaker is, right? So Bob, and you fold it in half, it's secret. And after the speeches, the ballot counter is going to come around quietly and just pick up all the ballots and then count them and indicate who was the favorite speaker. And same with the evaluators and the table topics. And at the end of the meeting, the Toastmaster will call the ballot counter up on stage to announce a winner and hand out the ribbons to each of the winners. And then the winners walk up to the front and accept the ribbon from the ballot counter. This is good for the speakers because now they have one more opportunity, because just standing up and walking in front of a crowd it's like gives you butterflies. Even if you're not going to talk, it's still kind of scary. If you continue to do it, then you're going to get used to it. So if you keep winning, you keep walking up on stage and getting a ribbon. But for the ballot counter, she is acting as a presenter. She's giving a little speech. She's calling somebody. They're coming up. She's giving her something, giving them something. Therefore, it's just part of the process of learning how to be a public speaker and be comfortable in different scenarios. And that's why you always want to sign up for different roles. Now, after the ballot counter, let's see. Then he's going to start introducing the speakers. And the Toastmaster will say, this is Bob. He's going to give a speech about XYZ. Please welcome Bob. And then Bob's going to come up and give a speech, and we all applaud, and then we're quiet. And because as soon as he says, thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, greeting fellow Toastmasters and guests, he owns the stage. His speech is going to begin. The timer is timing him. And during the meeting, whenever somebody's on stage speaking, we should always be quiet in the audience. We shouldn't be chit-chatting with other people because it's distracting to the speakers. And we're all scared enough. I mean, I've been a year and a half. I still get butterflies when I get up on stage. It's just, it never, I don't know if it ever goes away. I mean, I've heard of people like big speakers. singers that get up on stage and they're still nervous, but they just start singing and then they're fine, but you still have the speech. I think it's Bruce Springsteen did an interview where he says, he's scared to death before he gets on stage, but that's what he does for a living. He's got to do it. So he gets up there, he starts singing, and then the nerves go away. But just to be respectful to everybody else that's up there speaking, just try not to talk or be on your phone. Make sure it's muted. All the normal stuff. Okay, so after our speakers go, and we have anywhere from 1 to 3 speakers, we try to have at least 2 speakers during meeting. After the speakers speak, the Toastmaster is going to call on the timer and ask for a timer's report. And if everybody qualifies, then you vote for it. Now, that is part of the process, is timing, because usually when you're given the opportunity to give a speech at work, you just can't get up and talk forever. Your boss might say, can you get up and give a speech for 5 minutes about the XYZ account? And that's why we time it, so that you learn to structure your speeches in a manner and learn to get your thoughts together that it's in a certain time frame. So prepared speeches are 5 to 7 minutes, table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. And it just gives you practice different time frames to do certain speeches. And so if you go way over time, you have 30 seconds on each side. So if you did your speech for 4 minutes and 32 seconds, you would qualify. If you only did 4 minutes, you wouldn't qualify. Or if you did a speech for 8 minutes, or 10 and a half minutes, somebody did last night, you don't qualify to be voted on. I mean, there's no consequence, but it's just a recognition that you don't qualify because you spoke too long or too short. We're trying to encourage you to speak within the guidelines, because that's, in real life, you have a specific amount of time to speak. And after the timer gives a report, then the ballot counter is going to go around quietly and take because the other people are going to be speaking during this process. So she or he is going to go walk around, pick up all the little ballots from people, and then count them and do her little report. After that, we then go to table topics, which is the impromptu speaking. And again, each club does things a little differently. Our process is after the speeches, and we do this for a reason. There's a process. I'm a member of a club in New York because of Zoom, been able to join clubs in different areas. They do table topics before the speech, which I'm not sure why, but we do them after the speech, because the next part is the evaluations. And the evaluators have a certain format they have to follow, but each speech is different. So you never know what they're going to say. You don't know if they're going to do good or bad, or where they need improvement. So you need to be taking notes, and you have just a few minutes, technically, after the speech to give your evaluation. So if we throw table topics in there, you have about 10 minutes as the evaluator to write down your notes and kind of get a speech together, because it's 2 to 3 minutes. And you're going to write down your critique of the speaker's speech. And that's why we do table topics at that point, to give you an extra 10 minutes to get your thoughts together. And the table topics, so the Toastmaster is now going to turn the meeting over to somebody else. They're going to turn it over to the table topics master. The table topics master will then pick various audience members to give a speech. Usually they start with a member, and then they'll open it up to guests. Table topics master should only give it to people who don't have roles. So they shouldn't ask me a question. They shouldn't ask a speaker a question or evaluator. Ask people that don't have a role that night, because we want to engage everybody and try to get people who don't have roles to speak, especially guests. There's videos in our YouTube to talk about how to be table topic master, how to be timer, how to be Toastmaster. If you're on there, if you go to our thing, somewhere on videos, I'm not sure exactly where you're at, but we have videos on how to do all these different roles, and it's kind of a good guide for you, so you feel comfortable doing them for the first time. Table Topics Master does their thing. They just are at getting people, especially guests, because it's questions like, what's your favorite movie and why? And you come up to the front and you're going to talk about something you're comfortable with, because you're not saying, what did you think about this movie? It's what's your favorite movie and why? And it's like meeting somebody in a bar or at a party. You can talk about that for 1 to 2 minutes, and it's timed. And that's why, as you're up there, you'll see when you start table topics, you're looking for that green light, because you're like, oh my God, I made it. So that's where we're at with the table topics. And that's why we do it. Is you got to get off your butt, walk to the front of the stage. You're asked a question, and then you're going to give 1 to 2 minute speech about that. But it's impromptu. It's nothing prepared about that because you don't know what the question's going to be. But they're usually softball questions, so you're comfortable. There's also a thing, if you're a table topics contestant, it's called the politician response. And that's when, if you don't like the question, you get up there and they're like, what's your favorite movie? And you're like, well, I've never seen a movie in my life. You would say, that's an interesting question, but I want to talk about applesauce. You just totally, that's the politician way. You just totally change the subject. And that's fine. That's part of Toastmasters. If you have that ability to say, yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something else. In fact, at the New York club I'm a member of, if you don't like that question, I think you can take somebody else's question or something. They do something a little different, but at ours, try to answer the question. But if you don't like it or you can't answer, just go somewhere else with your thoughts. After the table topics contestants are done, again, we're going to ask for a timer's report. Timer's going to stand up, give a report. Ballot counter is going to come around, collect the little ballots from everybody. Then we're going to move into the evaluations. So the table topics master is going to turn it. Table topics master asks for the timer report. Then he turns it back to the Toastmaster. The Toastmaster talks for a couple minutes, usually comments about the various table topics questions and talks about applesauce again. And then he turns it over to the general evaluator. General evaluator is now in charge of the meeting. The general evaluator, their job is to watch the entire meeting before and during the meeting to talk about how we did as a club. Did we start the meeting on time? Did everybody have the roles filled? Was everybody doing things properly? How good was the Toastmaster in giving their speech and their topics and introducing people, and how well did the president do welcoming guests and talking? And that's what the general evaluator does. They're not real critical, but just kind of touch on various subjects. For instance, if it's the timer's first time being a timer, did they do a good job? And you want to recognize them. We're a very encouraging club. We're not really beating up people. We want to say, hey, Mike, today was your first time doing timer, and I think you did a really great job. Congratulations, keep going. Then the general evaluator is going to introduce the individual evaluators. And part of Toastmaster is getting feedback on your speeches. And we're not going to beat you up. We're going to tell you all the good parts, and then we're going to tell you where you have room for improvement. And it's not, again, we're not beating up people. We're just saying, maybe you could do this a little bit different, and that's the individual, the evaluator's thought. You might disagree with them, but it's not a debate. It's just their way of speaking. It's a role for them to feel comfortable being a public speaker, because they're going to get up, get in front of the audience, and give their speech. In fact, that was one of my biggest failures, was an evaluator. I got up and I bombed. I mean, it was 2 minutes. I didn't have enough material to talk about the person I was evaluating, and I kept looking at the timer like, where is that green light? Am I done yet? And I'm sweating. It was horrible. But you get over those things. Every speech, you should learn something, even if, table topics or timer, how did I do? How could have I done it better? Don't ever think, oh, I can't do this. This is horrible. Just say, okay, next time I'm going to do this differently. And that's what I did and I think after that, I did like 5 evaluations in a row, just so I could beat myself up to make sure I got it right. I still don't get it right, but I'm comfortable doing it. So the evaluators get up and they evaluate the speakers. And again, you need to be polite and give the positive, but also give them some constructive criticism about how they could do better next time. Then once the evaluations are done, call on the timer, the ballot counter goes around, the same process. Then the general evaluator gives their speech. They will call on the grammarian to give the grammarian's report. How many times did you say how many did you say so? Did everybody use the word of the day? Because you're encouraged to use the word of the day, and the grammarian will say, these 5 people said, word of the day. They said bananas or whatever it was. And once the grammarian's done with their report, and they get up in front of the stage and give the report too, then they turn it back to the general evaluator. Lots of roles, lots of positions. The general evaluator then hands the meeting back to the Toastmaster of the day. Toastmaster then calls on the ballot counter, who has now had time to calculate everything. She walks up to the front, she announces who the winners are, they come up, they get the ribbon, as I mentioned. That happens at the end of the meeting. And then Toastmaster does some closing words, and then he turns it back to me, the president, or whoever the president is when you're watching this. And then the president closes out the meeting, but first he's asking the guests, how do you feel about the meeting? Any thoughts? Ask the board members for any statements that they need to do. Like the treasurer might say, hey, don't forget the do's or do, or the public relations person might be saying, next week we have a certain theme meeting. We especially during Zoom, we did a lot of Zoom meetings. Theme meetings. But that's pretty much how the whole process works. But you can sign up for every single role there is, except for Sergeant of Arms and President. Every other role where you hear somebody speaking or giving speeches, you can sign up for it. And I encourage you to do it. Maybe start with giving a joke, because it seems simple, but you'll see it's different. Same with the timer and the ballot counters and all those different roles. It's meant to get you off your butt, walk up to the front of the stage, give a speech for 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, and then sit back down. And you might have to do it like the timer several times during the meeting. And we do have mentoring. You can reach out to me or one of the board members, but probably me at this point, to find out how we can help you with it. But the only way to do it is start talking. Just get up and start talking and signing up for the roles, and we'll go from there. All right, I hope this helped you all, and see you on the next meeting. And I'm ending the meeting.